Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Cycle. Today this is episode 17 with Scott from Shamory. So that's really cool to have on. How you doing today, Scott?
I'm doing great. Hope everybody else is as well.
Yeah, definitely. So Beardy kind of introduced us. He had ordered some stuff from it. Beardy, do you want to go ahead and talk a little bit, buddy?
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, the cool visual there. So I have 5 children, and the Bitcoin. It's the first time I've seen visualization of the Bitcoin circular economy. We ordered some. We have twin, 5 kids, but for the twin 20-month-olds, we ordered some onesies, and it came with all this cool stuff and discounts and handwritten notes. So it was all personalized, a really nice touch, and supporting the Bitcoin ecosystem. And I think Scott knows what all the B stem stuff and some of the other characters in the space.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We try to make each shipment, kind of personalize it a little way and kind of put a little touches. We're a small family-run business, so we know it's appreciated on our end when we get little things like that in the mail.
Yeah, it's actually we were actually kind of talking about it. I was like, wow, that's like pretty nice. You don't see a lot of companies that do like little things, because that's the little thing that kind of makes it. You're like, you know what? I'm supporting a small business. Like I like makes me want to go back and support a small business again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right on. Awesome. So
the real boss of our business is our 4-year-old, so she actually runs the show.
You're right.
Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, they all do.
Yep. Well,
I think I'm the only one here without a kid. So.
She'll run the business along with the other one.
That's awesome. It shows, gets them in the game, showing responsibility and taking care of others. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah. You know what I'm actually really interested in, this isn't one of those questions, but we can just maybe talk about it for a second, was the next generation that's growing up with like children like you guys all have kids. I don't, but you guys are all going to be teaching your children about Bitcoin, and stuff like that. So I think, like, how many generations do you guys see before we have more like self-sovereignty and digital nomad, and that's like the cultural norm?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think it's easily on the way with this. I guess I would say next generation. I'd classify that as my daughter's generation.
Okay.
Like I said, is 4, and only because she's not going to know anything different. It's not going to be a learning to her as far as using Bitcoin. She talks about using Bitcoin now. She talks about, are we paying in dollars or Bitcoin?
That's great.
That's pretty epic.
She was with us in Miami for the first time at the conference a couple months ago. So that was her first time physically being at a Bitcoin event. And obviously that's a big one to dive into.
Yeah.
But, she's in our opinion, a mature 4-year-old. So Mallory and I, and my wife and I, took that chance. She wanted to come along with us. So, we had our booth in the bazaar. They're long days. 3 days of, 8, 9, 10-hour days of being in the booth and doing that sort of stuff. But she handled it like a champ. And, she's able to then see, these, when we go to put these things in the mail and they get sent off, oftentimes she's the one going to the post office with us and dropping them in and whatnot. And, she'll say, goodbye, Monsters, goodbye, Satoshi, goodbye, Hal, enjoy your new home, all, little stuff like that. And so she understands already that there's this thing called Bitcoin out there. She's only 4, so she doesn't understand completely the difference between Bitcoin and a dollar and that sort of stuff. But to your question, I don't think that's going to be hard to define as she keeps getting older. Right now she has, just like any kid, she has a piggy bank, and she enjoys shiny coins because she can hold them physically, and they're shiny. And so that's something that's out there. But as she grows up, the odds are there's probably not going to be too many coins that are out there just to be able to use. And when we were in Miami, she sold bracelets herself for a donation, and she sold out every day. for Sats, and was able to have people scan directly to our Lightning address.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome. So, did you design those little guys? And
yes, the characters.
did you give them each a name? Yeah.
So we didn't. Neither Mallory and I are graphic designers by trade. So there's a designer that helped us create these. They came from our imagination, though. So the first product we created was our game, and so the characters came to life in that. There's 16 of them that are used throughout the game, and they came from the fact the game is really a memory game. So it's very similar to playing memory. And so as we kind of tested it out, we realized we need to have visualizations that are going to let people kind of sink into their head and remember them. And so that's where these Bitcoin monster characters came from. And then they kind of, have had their life of their own. Only 2 of them have names. So we named the first 2. Our second product was Goodnight Bitcoin. And in that book, the characters of Satoshi. So Satoshi is the purple one, and Hal is the guy with the top hat. So Satoshi and Hal created Bitcoin for the first time. So those 2 have names. The other handful don't have names yet. I'm sure they will eventually one day through, maybe we auction the names off, or who knows what it is, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And then,
sorry, Beardy. I was just going to say, can we make sure that we don't call any of them Sam Bankman-Fried or Alex Mashinsky?
Well, no, hold on. Maybe we get some new characters and it's like the devil or something,
That is true. There is, in the game, there is an attack character that comes and attacks the chain. So that
there you go. See, we can honor the victims of that by immortalizing him as the demon that he is, or the monster that he is.
Exactly.
And then I also bought the Hodl Up game, but there's another couple that actually created that one. I think it was another interesting story. So
yeah, no, and we know, coincidentally enough, Scott is his name, and Tally is his wife.
And we love board games. So
yep. So they're doing awesome work as well. We've got to know them over the past year or so.
Nice. Well, it's really cool. So, what originally brought you to Bitcoin? And what is Shamory? What, if you can give us just a brief idea of, what it means to you, or what the company means to you.
So what brought me into Bitcoin was kind of the 2017, 2018 bull run. And like many other people during that time, it was just seeing, number go up and seeing where it would go. And then I was kind of on the late side of that run. So that November, January time period, right before it all started coming down. And then, but unlike, maybe a lot of other people, I didn't turn away or anything like that. I kind of just kept diving down the rabbit hole. And, Mallory, my wife at that time, she was supportive of, being interested in, whatever financial obligations we put into things. But it wasn't really something that she was in and day out. But then after, about a year or so, realized, okay, this Bitcoin thing has caught my attention. It's something I think I can play a role in some way. I didn't know what it would be, but it kind of coincided with the time of us starting to plan for our family and recognizing that there really wasn't anything out there for kids in Bitcoin, and ways to make it easy for families to learn together. There was a couple other books, but other than that, really nothing. And so that's where the idea for the game that's on the screen, Shamory, came about. And then it was meant to be a fun side project just to kind of do together. And as the game started getting created, that's when Mallory became more interested as something we can do together and build. And then, kind of just took off from there, and not took off, in the sense that, we're knocking down anything crazy as far as sales goes, but took off in the sense that we could tell there's other families and Bitcoiners out there that wanted this sort of product and content. And kind of has run off from there.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't want to call Joe out on it, but I was pretty sure that it was Shamory because it's a play on Shaw, right? The script that it's written in.
Shaw 256, right?
Yeah.
I will also preference that with I am extremely dyslexic, so anytime I read out loud, I'll just be happy. But I do apologize.
Not a problem. We get it all the time.
No worries. Yeah, no, that's great. So, so why don't you tell us a little bit more about your your website, your company, your business, and if there's any other products that you wanted to specifically talk about.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, our first product is the card game, and that's really good for ages 4 on up to adults. We have drinking game instructions that are out there, so if you really want to spice it up once the kids go to bed, it's a fun way to learn about Bitcoin mining specifically without having to know anything going in. So it's played similar to the game. So we like to say, if your child can play memory, then they can play the game, or if your drunk adult friend can play memory, then they can play the game.
Awesome.
And so that was our first product. And then from there, we went ahead and have created continued to build that line out. So we have our 2 books. The first was Goodnight Bitcoin. So this is where Satoshi and Hal came to life for the first time. There we go. And so this book really tells the story of Bitcoin being created and kind of goes through that brief cycle. It's, if you're familiar with Goodnight Moon, Goodnight Baseball, Goodnight Gorilla, so it's that short rhyming style. And then the second book, which came out last year, is If You Give a Monster a Bitcoin. And this book, the plot really centers on the good that Bitcoin can and does do in the world. So that's kind of the plot line difference between the two. Both are in that rhyming style. So this is obviously a play on If You Give a Monster a Cookie, or excuse me, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. We're playing off on that one. And, while the books are obviously children's books in that case, one thing we do often hear is how reading those books for adults who may not be familiar with Bitcoin, it actually helps them just as much, especially maybe it's an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent who are not in the Bitcoin side of thing at all. And the kid is like, hey, Grandma, read me this book. And they're starting to learn things. And we've actually seen that firsthand. For example, one story my wife likes telling is after we released Goodnight Bitcoin, we came home one night and my mother-in-law had been watching our daughter, and Charlotte had asked her grandma to read Goodnight Bitcoin to her. And when we got home, my mother-in-law said, hey, Charlotte asked me to read Goodnight Bitcoin, and that character named Satoshi, I guarantee you she didn't say Satoshi right, but we'll go with it. Satoshi. How'd you guys come up with that name? And those little questions were then able to say, oh, we didn't create that name. That's the presumed name of the person who created Bitcoin, and just little things like that can help the adults too. And they kind of act as that stepping stone in a low stakes, fun way that probably doesn't sound as daunting as reading the Bitcoin Standard or something else like that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think this is great. I mean, I've got a little one that's almost 4 years old as well. So I'm definitely, and these books that you based off of your books off of are hits in our family, as well as many families, at least in the US. So I think it's a great stepping stone for the next generation, as we were talking about in that first question.
Yep, exactly. And we're, as you said, parents need to enjoy the books as well. So we didn't want to create books that parents wouldn't want to read. So we're all too familiar with getting a new book from the library or the bookstore or whatever it is, and reading it to Charlotte for the first time, and then being like, yeah, this isn't a good one. So we wanted to keep that standard up.
Yeah, and it's got to be good, because that sometimes these books you read them every single night for like 90 days in a row.
Exactly.
You guys really?
Yeah, that better be good.
What was that, Joe?
You guys actually that's real?
Oh yeah, man. 5-minute Star Wars stories. I've been going through that for like 4 months now.
Yeah, when they find their favorite story and they want to hear it.
Yeah, totally. We have that too. So we try to cycle them out and switch them up as much as possible. But yeah, they gravitate towards them.
Mm-hmm.
And then
awesome.
our most recent product is this guy here. So it's our plush toy of Satoshi.
That's awesome.
And if you'll notice on the coin area, it has the continent of Africa symbolized on that. And so the purpose of this product specifically came about from the fact that we'd often hear from kids and parents, when are you going to create a plushie? And we didn't really want to just put another plushie out there into the world. And so a group that we've partnered with over the past 2 years is the Built with Bitcoin Foundation, who does great work worldwide and in particular in Africa, building water wells and schoolhouses and tech centers and that sort of thing. And so what we've done with our Satoshi guy here is, as you can see on the screen, is our mission, first of all, is to fund an entire water well that will get built down in Africa in one of the villages and communities that Built with Bitcoin works for. So we're over halfway there, about 60 something percent there of our $7,000 goal. So 21% of the gross sale of each of these plushies goes directly to Built with Bitcoin. Hopefully, my personal goal is that we'll be able to close that gap by the end of the calendar year to be able to get that well built here. So people can come and buy a plushie for themselves. Or another page that you'd see on the site is the gift a chamois option, where if they don't have kids, you can actually just come to the site, purchase one, and then we take care of the delivery to a child in Africa when the Built with Bitcoin
that's awesome.
goes down there. And so Yusuf is actually down there as we speak. He's the executive director delivering the next batch of things.
That's really great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Send them one up, or as you saw there's a handful of just up on the screen, companies or large groups that have gone through and donated a bundle. And so that's donating 30 at a time and being able to kind of get a greater swath. So I think we're at 240 gifts that have gotten sent down to the
great.
Yeah, it's really cool. And if you
what an honorable mission, man. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I love about the Bitcoin community, and it's also kind of similar to what drew me to the Dogecoin community when they first came out. I was an original miner for the Dogecoin community, and they used to do Doge for water in Africa, where we would fund the digging of wells and stuff like that. And I've donated to that back in 2014. So this is like right up my alley, and I like what you guys are doing here.
Appreciate it.
Grinder the Boo Coiner. I knew it. No, just teasing.
Never bought it, only mined it.
You know what I've noticed about the Bitcoin community is everyone's got their different opinions, right? But for the most part, if you're in Bitcoin, you're the type of person who's gonna be able to have a conversation with someone, and if you don't agree on have the same values, you can still have the conversation with them. And it just seems like a very generous and everyone they see the good that Bitcoin can do, and they just want to share it. And it's just a bunch of just really chill people.
No.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Joe, because when I spoke with Zach from BSTEM, he said they met with the mayor somewhere in Virginia, and they had totally opposing views, and he sat and just listened for hours and hours, and they just came to this beautiful agreement, that this is good for the kids.
Zach's an awesome guy, and the work he's doing is going to pay dividends across the nation, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you wish that people knew about Bitcoin, and how do you broach the subject with them, right? Because obviously you spoke about your mother-in-law, for example, right? But is there anything else that people can do that you do, or you just give us a rundown of that?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, the tactic that we, my wife and I use typically around Bitcoin and kind of letting people know about it is really when they're ready, they know that they know what we do, they know that we're in the community, they know we can help answer questions. But what we find is that pushing it on them isn't something that's going to help. So it's really when they're ready, we're happy to answer questions, and then from there, I think it's really helpful to tailor that conversation based on the individual. Some people are going to gravitate more towards understanding and wanting to learn more about Bitcoin because of, say, projects like building a water well in Africa, or what the Built with Bitcoin Foundation is doing, or what the Human Rights Foundation is doing.
Mm-hmm.
But other people are going to be more interested in, number go up in ETFs and that side of things, and everything in between. Some are going to be on, what's, flared gas mining. You have to really know that person, I think, to really then tailor it, which sounds, I'm sure you guys understand that because you're in the community, you understand how many different legs and levels Bitcoin can have.
Yeah.
Most people on the outside just see it as, they think it's just another currency, but really can play so many different roles and morph, and that really allows you to tailor that conversation if you know the person. So I think it's really helpful that the people who are coming into the space, that they're able to first interact with people that they know and they know the personalities, so that those questions can be tailored more towards what's going to interest them the most, and then they can start learning about the other things, hopefully.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I actually, I keep like a list of what I call like the orange pill playlist, and I try to select different approaches to speaking about Bitcoin and putting on there. And then when somebody's asking me about Bitcoin and they actually want to dive in, like you said, that for that like first time, I go to that playlist and I say, which one would probably be the best video to send to this specific individual based on what I know about them
Yeah.
and what speaks to them. So yeah, 100% agree with that, Scott.
That's actually how my channel started. Was I made videos about what Bitcoin was and how to self custody and everything, to send to my mom and a few of my family members. And I was like, hey, this is what I've been talking about. If you want to watch the videos, they're there. And if you guys decide you want to know more, give me a call. If not, then just ignore the text.
Yep.
And yeah, it's kind of been here since.
No, exactly. They'll when they're ready, they're ready, and I'm sure, if all goes as planned, then over the next 6 to 8 months, there's probably going to be more and more of them that become ready because of what they start hearing again in the news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, so how do you feel about BlackRock coming in? There's a lot of, I would say, like, hesitation from the hardcore Bitcoiners because they want the recognition of like a BlackRock size company coming in and being like, yes, this asset is worth being into for the following reasons. But then it's also BlackRock, so it's how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm from the frame of mind that Bitcoin's for everyone, and that includes companies and organizations.
Okay, right on.
We can't really control, and at the end of the day, there's going to be obviously pluses and minuses from when it, I guess we can probably say when it happens. It's probably a when and not an if, at least in my mind. So,
Yeah.
Those sorts of organizations, if we want Bitcoin to continue to grow, are probably going to play a role in it because that's just the way the world's built. And some people will potentially get hurt from it, whether there's paper Bitcoin out there or whatever it may be. But it's probably not anything that's going to stop Bitcoin. It's going to keep going every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I was going to say somebody should make an awesome video called "Bitcoin is for Everyone." And I thought that was ironic because I just made that with help from my buddies, so that's funny.
There you go.
Yeah, that was a good video, buddy. Yeah, I definitely think you're right there that people do have the right, or companies do have the right to buy it because it is going to make it more scarce. And I mean, if people are okay with MicroStrategy buying up 158,000, I think, Bitcoin at this point, then they can't really get mad that BlackRock has kind of come in and do the same, if not more.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and it's the original Bitcoin ethos as well. It's censorship free. Anybody can use it, even your enemies can use it, and we have to be prepared that there are going to be people who use Bitcoin that we don't necessarily agree with. But the beauty of Bitcoin is that they can't corrupt the network, just as we can't stop them from using it.
Yep.
And I wonder if part of like some of the people's hesitation, especially if they grew up in the U.S., is they've been so used to the dollar being the dominant force that they're trying to, and I guess in their mind, they want to keep it the same as like America based. I don't know if that's really a thing, but
yeah, a lot of people don't realize half the world doesn't have bank accounts, so we're very privileged in the U.S.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of just like we have a very narrow view on things,
That's where Alex Gladstein's work comes in with in his books, Check Your Privilege, and he just wrote a new one too.
Yep.
Well, we kind of actually just breezed through all of those questions that I had in a very efficient and quick manner. So,
Jeez, you're getting good at this hosting thing, Joe.
you know what, I try to design the questions that they kind of just flow from topic to topic, and it actually just went exactly how I thought it was going to go. So,
Yeah.
Mine took a whole hour,
yeah.
and then the one before that was 2.5 hours. So.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't really my fault. People, don't blame me on that one. That was just a long talk. It was a good one though. Scott, do you have any questions for us, or do you want to? Is there anything that you want to talk about that people haven't asked you before?
Oh, good question. I don't know.
I try to do those. I try to do good questions every once in a while. Every like 7 episodes, I get a good
There you
one.
go. I don't know if there's anything off the top of my head that people haven't asked before. I will say, just put it out there for people listening as we head into the fall period. We will physically be at Pacific Bitcoin
Okay.
at the conference
Excellent.
in Santa Monica for the second year. So that's an easy. We're based in San Diego, and so that's an easy drive up for us, which is nice. And then in November, we'll also be at the Texas Blockchain Council event in Fort Worth.
Oh wait, I
Excellent.
haven't heard about that. I live in Dallas, so
There you go. That's in
well, we'll
like
try to link up.
November 10th or something like that. It's 2 days.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely have to try and link up to that.
Yeah, we'll all three of us will be there for those two. So if people are just looking to meet us in real life or grab something in person, we'll have everything at those two events. And then probably the next one will be next year in July in Nashville.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Beardy's planning on going to that.
Nice.
Taking over Nashville, and I imagine you guys are probably on Twitter, Nostr. You want to? Where can people find you? Wherever you want.
Yep, Twitter. So our handle on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube is Play Shamory. So you can find us there. And then we're on Nostr. I don't have our NPub memorized, but we are over there. Twitter is our most active spot on that side of things. And feel free to come. Everything, our DMs are open everywhere, whether it's on our Shamory page or on Twitter. I'm Scott M. Sibley. So we always like connecting and hearing feedback, or email Scott@Shamory or through the website. We're easy to get a hold of. Always want to hear feedback and hear about what's going on. One thing that we love doing is working with, events, big or small, around the world. I had a call yesterday with the people putting on the Indonesia Bitcoin conference in October. And so for events or meetups, that we can't be at, which is most of them, since we can't get around and don't have that sort of free Bitcoin laying around, we can send product in advance. We're happy to do revenue splits with conferences and meetups, so that, especially meetups, if you're looking to generate some funds from your group, we're more than happy to set up a split. So that's something we do with a few of them across the nation. And just make it easy to both get our products out there, help educate the kids, help educate families, make it fun. So conferences, meetups, that sort of thing, feel free to reach out and see where you're at.
I actually just signed up for Unconfiscatable Conference in Las Vegas. My wife gave me permission, and signed up for the poker tournament. So guys, nice. I'm all in. Nice. I used to play a lot of online poker, so that'll be fun.
Very nice.
Right on. Well, thank you very much.
I actually had one other question for you. I see that the game is STEM authenticated. Do you want to talk a little bit as to what that means for people who might not be familiar with that?
Yeah, definitely. Good one, especially since we brought up Zach and BSTEM, which I think is where all this connection began. So STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. It's a very common acronym in both in the States and worldwide. And it's a way for educators to really help organize and create their curriculum. And so as they're building, their math curriculum, their history curriculum, math, technology, et cetera, they can then gather products or videos or whatever it may be that have been tagged to say, okay, this fits in within XYZ. And so we were, since our game was our first product, the very first Bitcoin product to be STEM authenticated. Back in 2020. Time flies. And so our game is STEM authenticated, and then both books are also STEM authenticated, and so we're able to have that. And, it's funny. Most people that are parents, I think, probably have an idea what STEM is. If you're not, you may or may not, since it wasn't really as much of a thing when kind of our generation were kids.
True. Yeah.
But it is out there, and ideally, as things progress, the schools, the after-school programs like Zach's doing, the STEM centers are going to kind of want to teach more about both Bitcoin and financial education. Let's be honest, they should go hand in hand. And that's something that
never got any of that. And
exactly.
That's so important.
The schools, they're going to be the last ones to change. They're slow moving. My background before Shamory is in the education technology industry, and so I know firsthand how that goes. And so ideally, these sorts of credentials and certifications will make it easier for games like Shamory or books like we've created, and ones we continue to create, to get into those areas. You mentioned Scott and Tally, they're big in the homeschool area side of things. So ideally, maybe homeschoolers are the first ones to kind of see that light, since they encompass many of the ethos that Bitcoin and the Bitcoin community has. They just probably don't know it yet. That's something Scott likes to say. And so whether it's the homeschool audience using STEM products or the traditional schooling audience, we're ready when they are. But very similar to your other question about, how do you teach people about Bitcoin, especially with schools, you kind of have to wait till they're ready to be able to become interested. But, we're ready when they are.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really neat. I didn't notice that. I should have, but
love everything you're doing.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, I see a bright future for you guys, so definitely keep it up, and we're going to be supporting you, that's for sure. I will be placing an order for my kiddo real soon.
Awesome.
Keep up the grind. No pun intended. Actually, pun intended. Sorry.
Thanks.
They're packing it up, and Charlotte will drop it at the post office as soon as it's ready.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
All right.
I didn't. It's always really cool when you can support small businesses, and like the kids get to be involved and learn how to run their own business from a young age. So that's really cool of you guys to start to do.
Yep. And actually, you asked me if I had a question, and actually, the screen that has popped up here, it's something I haven't actually announced yet, and you stumbled on it, which is good.
Okay.
One, piggybacking kind of the idea that we have with the chamois, the plush toys, where we're gifting plushies to the kids in Africa, which has been well received, and going off of our kind of STEM and school side of things. One thing that I'd like to be able to start doing is getting these books and games sent to, whether it's schools or libraries or after school programs or any sort of environment like that. And so the screen that you have up here right now, it's labeled the Shamory School Program, where people can come to the site, and if they purchase something from one of these products, the books and the game, they can identify the site, whether that's a school or something else, that they want us to send it to, with a note of kind of welcoming them to the Shamory and Bitcoin experience and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Personally, I don't like the name Shamory School. It's the best thing I've come up with so far, which is part of the reason why I haven't really announced anything yet. So I'll toss it your guys' way. I don't like the fact that it's pigeoning it holes just with schools, which isn't my intent. So if there's another name, whether it's on this call or something that pops into your head afterwards, I'm all ears on that front.
Let's let the internet do its thing.
Exactly.
What about Shamory Experience?
That could work. Yep.
I mean, you use it to exactly describe what it is, and it is an experience. Like you kind of came up with that yourself.
Yep.
Also, kind of like a play on armory, like armor.
Yep.
Well, everybody watching the video, drop a comment below, and
definitely. Now,
what you think.
My brain cells are just about fried. I can't think of anything cool.
Nope. And like I said, we're easy to get a hold of. So whether it's DM or emails or whatever, if somebody has an idea, shoot it my way.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing what you guys come up with in the future. So,
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And like I said, we'll be at those in-person events coming up here in the next few months. So feel free to come by and say hi in person if you guys happen to be there.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
And then we'll go ahead and hit end, and then we'll just hang on for a second. All right.
Yep.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.